Okay, so welcome back to the channel, guys. We are doing an England preview. Yes, a Welshman doing an England preview. I never thought I'd be saying that, but I'm delighted to be joined by Debs from 365 Sporting Days. We will get onto that in just a second. But welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you.
Absolutely. And England, of course, champions of the Six Nations, going into this autumn's cup, you'd assume as one of the favourites. How would you summarise the Six Nations, first of all? How did you see it? It was a very strange one, wasn't it?
It was a very strange one. And actually, I was in Paris at the Stade de France when France beat England. And coming off the back of being in the final of the World Cup, it was something of a shock. However, I really enjoyed the French performance. I think it's important for the Six Nations competition to have a strong French team. And at that time, I thought they would have a Grand Slam in the bag. Of course, not forgetting the fact that they can do ridiculous things, as happened against Scotland. England did what they needed to do, as is so often the way. And actually, I looked into why did France lose that on points difference. Well, yes, they had a player sent off against Scotland, but they actually allowed Italy to score 22 points against them. So the combination of those two games is where England won. I'm a bit funny when it comes to Six Nations. I like to see the best team winning, not necessarily England, which is a bit much coming from an England fan. But were they the best team? I'm not convinced they were, but they did what they needed to do to win it, didn't they?
Absolutely. I think that's the whole point. I think that's what England have been so well at doing in their history is they get the job done a lot of the times. And although it may not be the prettiest performance, it may be simply keeping the ball for the last 2-3 minutes to see the game out, etc. They get the job done. But you won it. You were champions of that. And now you have an opportunity for some more silverware with a lot of countries, I feel, in a weird spot. Us here in Wales, we don't have a defence coach to start with, which is going to be interesting to see how that goes. But for you as an England fan, what do you want to see this autumn? Do you want to see Eddie Jones experiment, or do you want to see, right, we're going to go for this, we're going to win this, and we're going to build momentum? What would you like to see?
I'd like to see him experiment. So I'm probably going to go a bit ballistic when I'm looking at the team that we've got against Georgia. There's some very, very fine talent in the Premiership. And I'd like to see him make use of it. I do what France are doing. Let's build to 2023. When we spoke before, we spoke about what teams were doing in the Six Nations. For me, we should be building each time to the 4 years. The World Cup is the thing. You know, that's what teams are remembered for. Grand Slams, Wales are very good at them. England are not so good. I'd rather see him build to 2023.
I think that's what a coach is brought in to do. Obviously, I know this is an England preview, and I'm going to talk a bit about Wales here, but Pivac, of course, has come in, and he is obviously struggling in this first year, but it's a transition phase, and he's only been given a 2-year contract, which I was a bit thinking about in the first place, because you're meant to build for 4 years. And I think that if Eddie Jones is committed for the next 4 years, it's a new cycle. You get rid of the deadwood, you bring the fresh talent in, and that's how it should be. But it doesn't seem like he's doing that. It seems to me, I want to get your opinion on this, that he maybe has his favourites. Would you agree with me?
Big time. When you look at this team, I mean, I know we're going to come on to that, but majorly it looks that way. I mean, I'm deliberately sitting here with the Saracens badge on today because I'm absolutely appalled that there's only one Exeter player in this team. I don't get it at all.
Absolutely. It's strange, isn't it? It's like Simmons at fly half, captain of Exeter, won the European Champions Cup and won the league as well. George Ford is injured, so there's space for him to get in there, and he's not in there. So it mind boggles.
Yeah, let's just ignore him, and let's just ignore his brother as well, who was European Player of the Year. You know, I don't get it at all. They are European and Premiership champions, and yet internationally they're basically being ignored. But Henry Slade, who's been there for a while, who is undoubtedly a hugely talented player, he's the only guy in there. I don't get it. I really don't.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the team then, and I'll get your thoughts on it. I think I already know where this is going to go.
I think
Let's have a look. Let's have a chat about the backs first of all. Let's go through the back. So Elliot Daly starts at fullback with Jonathan Joseph playing on the wing, with a centre partnership then of Henry Slade and Ollie Lawrence. And then on the other wing, you have Johnny May with a halfback pairing of Ben Youngs and Owen Farrell. I'll let you know my thoughts on Ben Youngs in a bit. Then the forwards, we have front row, Ellis Genge, Jamie George and Will Stewart. We have Charlie Eels at lock alongside Joe Launchbury, Maro Itoje, Jack Willis, and then Billy Vunipola, leaving the finishers, as Eddie Jones likes to call them, are Joe Marchant, Max Malins, Dan Robson, Tom Curry, Ben Earl, Cal Sinclair, Mako Vunipola, and Tom Dunn. Your initial reactions to this team, I kind of have an idea of where you're going to go with this, but what do you think?
Right, let's start with the forwards. Maro Itoje's not 6. Jonathan Joseph's not a winger. Elliot Daly's not a fantastic fullback at all. Ben Youngs, he had a good game in that last game against Italy. He had a good game, but he's not the future of England rugby. I'm happy that Dan Robson is amongst the finishers. I think he should have probably been England's starting scrum half for a while, but injury intervened. But don't start with your man that's got 100 caps. Let's get somebody new in there. He seems to have an absolute blockage when it comes to the scrum half shirt, and I can't understand what's going on. Owen Farrell, Saracens player, plays as Eddie wants him to play. But Joe, as we said, why not have Joe Simmons in there?
Absolutely.
I'm really happy to see Jack. It's awful because I'm talking about the people that are not there rather than the people that are, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But it's good to see Jack Willis in there. I think he's an absolute talent. As I said on another podcast, I think we did. You'd almost think that England were Wales with the back row options that they've got. But why play a lock at 6 when you've got so much choice? I mean, world class is a term that's bandied around an awful lot around players, and I don't think there are many world class players in the Northern Hemisphere. And I think Maro is one of those world class players. But please play him at 4. Why have we got him in the back row? I wouldn't have played Billy in this one either. I think he looks fitter than he has for a long time. But with the wealth of riches that they've got in that back row, let's try them out against Georgia. I don't know what's going through Eddie's mind.
I think it's an interesting debate that I've heard on various podcasts over the past few months and years since Eddie Jones has been there. Do you think he plays up to the media? Do you think he enjoys toying with the media a little bit, or do you just think he's in his own little world and he does his thing?
I think he enjoys it, and I think it's almost as if, you know, ridiculously, I've lost the name of the Bath scrum half, which is Ben Spencer.
Yeah.
You know, it almost feels like if people keep pushing Ben Spencer, who is probably the best 9 in the Premiership at the moment, there's no way he's going to get picked.
Yeah.
Why is he? You know, for him not to even be in the training school. I mean, how must he feel about life? You know, he got plucked and put on a plane to Japan, and had a whole minute to 2 minutes in a World Cup final, and then it's off. See you, then forget about you.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, I would say, I mean, I'm not a Bath fan, but I would hesitate to guess that most Bath fans now, he would be the first person on their team sheet.
Yeah.
You know, and there are a few Bath players in that team, but he's nowhere to be seen. He must be feeling pretty downhearted, I would imagine, at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, he would. Let's have a talk about Georgia, though, quickly. Of what I've seen of them, against Scotland, they got absolutely smashed, but I think people have to be aware that although the Georgian League has kicked off once again, that the players who were picked for the Georgian national team were actually put into a bubble and hadn't played any rugby for 6 months. So they have now had a game, they've had some training, but against England, surely they're not going to do much against you, are they, do you think?
I'd be surprised if they did. They tend to have a very strong forward pack, don't they? I can see Ellis Genge having an interesting game. He's going to need a calming influence behind him, which I think perhaps that's why Joe Launchbury's there. That's another interesting pick for me. Great player, but he's 29. Is he the future of England rugby?
Yeah.
I don't think he is. Yeah, I think I might be a bit worried that England get a bit roughed up actually by Georgia. But the group that they're in, I mean, with Ireland and Wales, it could be quite an unpleasant autumn for them, I feel.
But yeah, let's finish then with your predictions for this Autumn Nations Cup. The aim must be to get out the group for sure, and then is it see what happens, or are you thinking we can easily win this?
I think England can win it. Yeah, I do. I mean, France are going to be the ones to watch as well on the other side. Scotland, Italy, France, Fiji. I can't imagine that they're going to lose any of those games, but then you might get an idiot come along, as often happens with France, doesn't it? Something stupid, you never know. I'll be surprised if England aren't there or thereabouts. But I just hope they play that exciting and entertaining rugby. I mean, there are some very exciting young players in that 23. I'm not so keen on the starting lineup, but there are a few on that finishers bench, as he calls it, that are very exciting young players.
Absolutely. There we go. Thank you so much. Before we go, though, let's chat a bit about 365 Sporting Days. Tell people about what it is and why they should check it out.
Well, so I started this, I think, in 2015. I'd been writing about rugby for another website, and I wanted to write about cricket as well. That's my first passion, sporting-wise, which you would, perhaps as a Welshman, wouldn't necessarily appreciate that. But so I set my own website up, and in that first year, I numbered the events that I went to, and I was still working full-time. I think I went to 174 events in that first year. I had a fantastic, it was obviously the Rugby World Cup, and I went to 15 games, which was incredible. So I write about the sport that I watch, but I also do photography. So it's a place that I can share the photos that I take.